Ayahuasca kicked my ass this weekend. I had one night of drinking and it was one of the most difficult and challenging nights of my life. And I learned a very, very important lesson that I want to share in this trip report right here. Hey, I'm Vego and this is Psychedelic Actualization. I'm a psychedelic integration coach. If you're curious about working with me, a link is in the video description. And even after dozens of times of drinking, 9 years back I was drinking for the first time, and still over all these years of working with the medicine, there is still the opportunity to make mistakes and to learn from these mistakes. Well, actually, in my worldview, there are no mistakes. It's all just opportunities to learn. But here I did learn, and I did learn the hard way. Because this night of drinking was one of the hardest nights, and it came under the theme of struggling. I was just struggling so much throughout the night. So let me back up and start at the beginning of this story. So I signed up for this ayahuasca retreat, one-day event, and it was a men's circle. Very exciting. I have never done a men's circle with ayahuasca, so very exciting opportunity, very excited for that event. And then a week before that ayahuasca ceremony, I did my vision quest. There's a video right here with 5-MeO DMT even, and I really pushed my body in these 3 days of fasting and the 5-MeO, and afterwards I felt sick. And I felt really, really sick in the week upcoming to the ayahuasca. And I was like, I'm not sure if I want to go, and I don't feel this fuck yeah anymore, not 100% in. But I said I'm gonna come, I signed up, and yeah, it's just one night, I was kind of like in the week before, I was resting a lot, I was taking care, I was preparing and tuning in, but part of my attitude towards that night of drinking was downplaying it. It was rationalizing it. Yeah, it's just one night, we've done this before, it's gonna be fine. Like, all of these kind of like thoughts were running through my head, and I was like, maybe I shall be like not going to drink, but also there was this tension between not fully feeling it, but also wanting to go. And I decided to go, and I was like, I'll just go and just drink a little bit, just a tiny bit, maybe even for some physical healing, and see what happens, and just take it easy. Just take it easy this night, and I'll see what happens. As it seems to be in my character, I don't like to take it easy. I like to push harder and harder. And so when I arrived there, I drank just half a cup, but it was very, very strong medicine, dieta medicine from the jungle of Peru. Very, very strong medicine. And even with half a cup, I felt it coming on quite strong. But then after an hour or so, I was like, yeah, somehow, like, now I'm here, now I can go in. And oh God knows what I signed up for. So I drank another half a cup, kind of like to go in fully. And the medicine started, and it was a real struggle. To preface as well, this book here, it saved my life. Every time before I go into an ayahuasca ceremony, I reread some of this book, The Zen Teachings of Bodhidharma. It's one of my favorite books of all time, and there's a sentence in there that guided my whole journey. There's other kind of like tools and phrases I use to keep me sane during the night, but there's one. It says, if you seek direct understanding, don't hold on to any appearance whatsoever, and you'll succeed. I have no other advice. So basically, it's teaching of detachment, detaching from all appearances whatsoever, from all experiences, as all experiences are inherently empty. The experience is not it. It's not the Buddha nature. So this not identifying with any experience or any appearance or any play that is playing out in front of you. And that helped me tremendously throughout that night. Because when the night started, I already kind of like felt I started to struggle. I started just... It was hard to pinpoint and define down, but it was just this sensation of man, this is difficult. Like, I'm opening, I'm surrendering, I'm embracing, but this is difficult. And it just got more and more difficult. And it's hard to explain. Like, it got to a point where it was so difficult that I kind of like broke down. It broke me throughout the night. And there were different phases that I want to go into. So, and two important lessons of this struggle throughout the night. Because, yeah, it was not just showing me one lesson, but also teaching me in a different sense. So overall, ayahuasca never ceases to amaze me, because it's just such a powerful teacher. It has such a powerful, beautiful way of teaching. So one part of the lesson that I learned is really to respect the medicine. As I said, I was slightly in my attitude, taking it lightly, disrespecting the medicine a little bit. And it really showed me, like, who's the boss, you know? If you don't feel the call, like, don't go there. If you don't feel well, like, come on, like, be all in or not. Because throughout this night, I had to be all in, because it was confronting me with such darkness and such suffering that I just had to be all there. You know, prepare properly and trust your intuition. And really, that was kind of like the key insight of, like, really with approach towards the medicine, of going into the medicine. So I want to pass that on. Like, I mean, probably you know, maybe you don't, but really, if you, tune into the intuition and feel the call, and really trust that, and then be in communication with the facilitator to with yourself, to see if it's really the right time, and if you're really prepared and ready mentally, physically, spiritually, environmentally, to go into such an experience. Because you never know what will unfold in that experience. And that was what it showed me, by humbling me throughout the whole night. I was just being humbled and humbled again, and I was just like, okay, I understand, I got the lesson, like, please let us stop now. And it just intensified more and more and more. I'll come to that in a bit. The second lesson is, though it was kind of like part of this was the lesson, but even in the struggle, there was a different lesson. In our attitude and confrontation with the struggle, being faced with suffering and intense experiences, dark experiences, confusing, chaotic, rough, tough experiences, there is a beautiful opportunity to see how we not react, but how we dance with that. It's like, I see ayahuasca and psychedelic journeys often like a dance, you know? It's like you're dancing with the medicine, you're dancing with appearances, not holding on to them, not identifying with them, but you're dancing with them. That's how it feels like for me. And so I also could kind of like draw a similarity to my life, because in my life at that time, in this moment right now, I'm struggling a lot. Like, I feel like I'm struggling, I'm doing stuff, I'm like, and so that was kind of like a mirror. It was reflected back in the ceremony as well. Lots of uncertainty in my life as well at the moment. So it was beautiful to see the dance of the struggle, and then my kind of like approach towards that struggle. How I approached it was, right, to embrace it, and have these different phrases of, like, all you gotta do is to take one breath at a time and say yes to it. Say yes to the struggle. Say yes to every appearance. It's what I call, in the psychedelic actualization framework, which I teach my clients, I call it the dance of detached appreciation. It's kind of like the highest ideal spiritually with my awareness that I aim towards. It's not to attach to any appearance whatsoever, but to appreciate it fully, to embrace it, to love it, to take it on. And so with that, then, the struggle, even though it was still a hard struggle and a suffering, it became a bit like easier in a sense, or it became effortless in a sense, if that makes any sense whatsoever, because there was an embrace of it. And so the lesson here is also that came through me strongly is, it's okay to struggle. Like, in your life, Maybe you're balancing and juggling all these different areas of health and relationships and job and career and learning and sense of purpose and whatsoever, right? We all have all these different areas of life. And sometimes, at least with many humans I meet, they're struggling in a certain sense. Or we have phases in our life where we're struggling. And the medicine was showing me that's okay. It's part of the human experience to struggle. It's okay to struggle. And with that realization of it being okay, me being okay struggling, not wishing it to be any different than it is, through that came kind of like a relief and a release and a beauty into that dance, that it's okay to struggle. Still later on in the night, it kind of like kept slapping me and I couldn't hold on to this realization. But also what helped me was a beautiful realization in that detachment of the struggle was the sensation or the question, who is struggling? So this is where it got really interesting, spiritually kind of like speaking, is the question, who is struggling? Resolved the struggle to a certain degree in certain phases of the journey. As the truth, as I understand it, is that there is no sense of self, right? It's the teaching of Buddhism. It's the no self. It's the selflessness. And Ramana Maharashi was asking the question, who am I, right? And this question can lead to an awakening experience. And this is kind of like a similar question. There's a deep power in questions. A very important video right here in which you can go deeper into the power of questions. But who is struggling was basically a similar question to that, which I was kind of like taking on in the ceremony itself, which then said like, okay, I was searching for that sense of me that is struggling, but there was no me. There's none. And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find that me that is struggling, and that resolved the struggle to a certain degree. Couldn't hold that to the greatest extent, but it was a very interesting part of that dance. Another aspect that helped with the struggling, which is powerful to observe and just to mention, I feel, is singing. Sitting up, sometimes I was singing up and I was singing along. We were allowed to sing on with some songs, some mantras, some songs to the mother, to the Aya. And to sing is really a powerful way to feel your power, to empower yourself, not to crawl up into the suffering and say like, please let it end. Like, there were phases of that, and there was a little bit of like darker music playing in the background, but sometimes there were phases where we were singing, and singing up is as Terence McKenna said, and many other psychonauts are saying, right? It oxygenates your body, it gives you direction and power, it empowers you and guides you and carries you through across that ocean of the appearances, of illusions and of suffering. And so the singing was quite powerful. Another aspect, another tool, I was kind of like picking on all the tools that I have in my life to deal with this deep challenge of being in that situation, of one of the hardest nights of my life, was another mantra called the Sat Nam. I've been peeking into Sikhism last couple of weeks, and one of the core mantras, they call it Nam Simran, you repeat the name of God, and one is Sat Nam. Sat means truth or being, and Nam means the name. So the name is truth, basically, and with every breath, with every in-breath, I was chanting Sat, and with every out-breath, I was chanting Nam. Sat, Nam. Sat Nam. So recognizing the struggle and the suffering and the appearances that were appearing as truth. So in a certain sense. So that was quite helpful and beautiful. But yeah, back to the struggle. Like the struggle itself was just so confronting. It's so hard to put into words, and if you don't have a reference point, like maybe you have a reference point of like some of the most challenging experiences in your life. Maybe that times 10 or times 100 compressed in one night. It's like, it was actually really hard to to confront that emotionally. It just feels really, really, really hard to relax into it, embrace it, and yeah, just move through that. It's just, but there's no other way. You know, when you're in ceremony, there's no other way. You can't wish for it to be any different than it is, because it's just the case. One breath at a time, you gotta move through that, no matter how challenging and how difficult it is, and how intense it's getting. Another mantra that was helping me when it got really, really tough, and there was no music playing and I wasn't singing, there was a mantra playing in my head, one of my favorites, Buddhist mantras. It's Gati Gati Para Samgati Bodhi Swaha. So go even further, go beyond until you've reached your Buddha nature, enlightenment. So it's displaying this sensation of just moving through all the worldly appearances of illusion until you've reached that place of peace. Yeah. So yeah, and also the saying, the classic one, this too shall pass. All appearances, all experiences are temporary. It's the teaching of impermanence, kind of like all these teachings. That's why it's so beautiful to prepare with some Buddhist teachings, some other spiritual traditions, to really deepen your meditation practice before you go in, because that's sometimes what's needed, right, in ceremony. And for brief moments, they were also kind of like, it turned a little bit lighter, and there were mantras to Krishna, and there was a bit of joy that was flowing, but then it was coming back right to the struggle and to humbling me. And towards the end of the night, like it was just, the waves were just getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. I was smoking my mapacho, like trying to center myself, but I got more and more disoriented, and my willpower and my power to chant and to surrender decreased over the period of the night. And the intensity of the ayahuasca increased, and I was getting more disoriented, losing my sense of self to a certain degree, which brought me back to one of my most intense ayahuasca experiences. There was a little bit of fear coming up that I'm gonna just lose my shit, just get out of control. I don't know, ask for help. Like it's very difficult to be in such a situation when it's like, but almost being so dissociated that I don't even know anymore where I am, who I am, up, down, left, right. There's a trip report right here, which from my most intense ayahuasca experience. It wasn't as intense as that one, but it was definitely getting into this territory, and I was just like trying to just hold on and let go at the same time. Insight about surrender. Basically, surrender means victory. That was a beautiful insight. Because when you're surrendering, there's nothing to lose anymore. It's like you won, basically. Funny kind of like insight. But I felt defeated. I was out of power, and it got really rough, wild. The ayahuasca, it had no mercy. And it was just slapping me left and right, and I was just, at the end, I was just praying for it to calm down, to be gentle, and to like really, I was just like, yeah, just please, just like praying for it to calm down, and it wouldn't. It kept on humbling me until the last minute of the ceremony, until it was set to be the last song. And then with the last song, I felt the ayahuasca leaving me a little bit, and I felt the ceremony ending, and I just couldn't believe that it was done. Like it was, it was crazy. It was an absolutely bonker kind of experience. It was also the first time that I was going into ceremony while being really sick physically. That's kind of like an interesting side note. Throughout the ceremony, the sickness went into the background. So, and when the ceremony ended, the sickness came to the forefront again. Nose running, coughing. Was interesting to see. But I was kind of like wishing for insight into the sickness or some healing, and it just was one of the most roughest, toughest, most challenging nights of my life. But also to follow that along, the day after, and even now 2-3 days after the ceremony, I feel physically better, which is interesting. I feel more clear, empowered, like it was exactly what I needed to be shaken up and humbled so intensely. Again, still a bit sick, but I feel much better physically, which is an interesting observation. And just to end off the night, which is also beautiful, kind of like interesting experience, which I couldn't go into anymore, unfortunately. But while I was trying to sleep and the medicine was leaving my body, it was still present very intensely. And I started, right, monkey mind was coming back always towards the end of ceremony. It's crazy how like thoughts are running and self-talk is starting, and monkey mind is back. Ego is happy that it's alive. I was returning to the guru, to the mantra of Waheguru, and they also have the name of the wondrous Lord, basically, also from Sikhism, Waheguru, Waheguru, Waheguru. And as I was starting to chant Waheguru towards the end of the night, I felt really just like the ego kind of like sense of self dissolving again, but into this beautiful, divine, God realized state. And it was such an intense kind of like experience that I wasn't ready to go there. You know, I was like, I wish I would have, but I was so beaten up throughout the night that I was just like, okay, it's enough. Like, I just want ordinary state consciousness back. I just want to sleep and be a normal human ego again. So I didn't go there, but it was interesting that kind of like opened up. Yeah, otherwise, some personal insights here and there about mother and father and relationships and friends and career path and this channel and the course that I'm going to be creating hopefully soon, and about you guys. And it's like just a beautiful bunch of personal insights sprinkled in here and there. But overall, yeah, just like ayahuasca has my heart. It's such a powerful medicine. It never ceases to disappoint me. It has taken me to the highest highs and to the lowest lows of my psychedelic journeying. And it's just, right, the infinite beauty, the infinite horror, the darkness and the light. It's just a pure, reflection of life itself. A ceremony is always, sometimes it feels like our life journey compressed into one night with all the ups and downs, the roller coaster of life, and a beautiful learning ground to dance this, to learn this dance of the detached appreciation, not to hold on to any appearance whatsoever, right? But to love it and to say yes to it. So this is kind of like the core lesson that I oftentimes take out of the ayahuasca, because it is a teaching of love. That's what it feels like. And it also displays this sense of uncertainty in our life. You know, you can plan for, I think it was Neem Kaurai Baba who said, you can plan for 100 years, but you will never know what happens the next moment. There's an inherent uncertainty and unknown in the next moment, even though the next moment, it doesn't even really exist, right? And that's kind of like contributing to this big mystery that we find ourselves in. So overall, deep respect to the medicine. I learned my lesson, hopefully. That's an interesting thing with us humans, you know, we learn a lesson and then we tap into the same kind of like recurrent pattern again, and we learn the lesson again. But that's what we're here for, right? We're learning lessons all over, every day, all of us. And I want to end this trip report with a quote from Meister Eckhart, the German theologian from the Middle Ages. Beautiful mystic, great work that he's doing. And I think he said, nothing is sharper than suffering, but nothing is sweeter than to have suffered. and that's what it felt like after that night of intense struggle and suffering, one of the hardest nights of my life. I almost felt like I wouldn't make it. But there's always the next morning. You know, the sun is always rising again, and and we're here, and that's beautiful. So I hope you enjoyed this little trip report. Enjoy your day. Blessings.